In today's lesson, I'll be talking about how to create rig controls and giving bones custom shapes so that they're easier to select, and also going to give them colors to distinguish them from one another. And not to mention, I want to talk about bone collections because in lesson one, I glossed over it, glanced over here, showed you this, but I didn't go further into it or provide any further details. So we're going to look into that, and we start creating custom shapes. We're going to do a little bit of modeling here and there. Don't worry about it. I'll guide you. And to top it all off, we'll give them colors, make them look better, and add maybe some extra bones here and there because the current setup for the foot IK is nice and all, but it feels like if we want some proper stuff for the controls, it would be really good to have something. So let's begin. I will start now by going to the bones here and going to pose mode. So I'm going to press Control Tab, and it's perfect as it is now. We're going to create a collection here. I'm going to call this Rig Controls. I'm going to take the pole left, pole right, hide them real quick. IK left, IK right. Take those as well and unhide them, and then assign them to this collection. And if I click here, if I hide the main collection here, and we have this only active, you can see here that our main active collection is the rig controls. Now, I'd like to keep something else here. I'm going to keep the hips, or better yet, instead of keeping the hips, I'm going to create a bone for this. And the root can be here in the rig controls. So I'm going to click on assign to that. All right, so now we have these two collections here. We have the rig controls and we have this one. I'm going to call this deform skeleton, which means that it leaves the original bones as it is. I'm going to go create some controls here, and we're going to do that now. So I'm going to select this layer. I'm going to go to edit mode. Or actually, sorry. I'm going to go here to the deform skeleton collection. I'm going to duplicate this and then scale it up a little bit. I'm going to call this hip controller. So basically what I will do here is I will use another constraint for the hips here. I'm going to use a constraint called child of. So we're going to go to child of constraint, click on the armature. I'm going to go to hip underscore controller. The hip controller could be named anything. Like, for the sake of convenience, you can call it even hip underscore CTRL for control, or controller if you want to call it, but I'm going to call it hip CTRL for short, control for short. And go here and click set inverse. And if I move this around, it's the hip controller now that's being the one that controls the hip. We don't need to worry about that. And if I hide this, looks like we have not moved this. So if we press M, you can move the rig controls here. So now we can hide this and unhide it. So if you want to create a collection, you click on plus here, and you can order the collection here. You can move the collections or layers up and down. And if you want, you can have solo visibility, and you have show all. Now, an interesting thing is, just like in object mode, when you look at objects or anything that you select and click on M to move to create a new collection, you can do the same thing with bones. So if you select the bones in pose mode and press M, it says here, move to collection, deform skeleton or rig controls. And then we also have here the option to create a new collection. If we do that and it's going to ask us for a name. So we're going to click on here and type test, for example, and boom. As you can see here, we have a test collection. So I'm going to remove that for now. We don't need it. And we can hide the deformed skeleton. And now we have something nice going on. But we notice that there's an issue here. That's because this is a phenomenon known as a double transform. If this occurs, sometimes it's due to the child of constraint, because it's parented to the bone and this one is not. So we can adjust that. We can make a change in here. See, I'm a human also. I make mistakes. It happens to the best of us. So what I need to do now here, I'm gonna go and copy the rotation, location, and rotation of the hip control. So hips, hip control, hip, oops, hip control, and then same here, armature, tab control. And now if I move this around and if I do the same here, so I just want the hip to follow and rotate and everything. We can do the same thing for a scale. So if we want to scale it up and down, so we can have here copy scale. And same thing, armature. And we're going to do control here, hip control. And if we scale this up, it'll scale with it. So very nice. That's for making it possible. So we have copy location, copy rotation, copy scale. Then the constraints are pretty obvious for that sake. So if we click here, hide the deformed skeleton, now we have these fancy ones in here. And they look nice, they look alright. But they feel something like they miss something, and that is, here would be really nice. If I rotate this right now as it is, it's nice and all, but if we were to animate sometimes and we change the transform orientation to be global, from global to local, and if we do that, notice how it's annoying and during moments like this. So like if I were to move this on z-axis locally, it'll be like this. And it's not fun. It's not fun to animate this and you have to deal with the axis and then doing this and then going like that. So, but to fix that for the local issue, what I do is go to edit mode, isolate this by pressing the slash key on your numpad, so you can isolate like that. I'm going to go to the side view. So by pressing numpad 3, it will give us a right perspective, and if I press numpad 5 to toggle from perspective to orthographic, and then shift Z for wireframe mode, what I will do is I'll duplicate this bone and then scale it. So SZ0, we scale it on the Z-axis, flatten it down, and if I enable my snapping tool here, snapping mode, and click on vertex, I want to snap it straight down here for the bone, and then scale this. I want to scale this like that. I'm going to call this foot IK foot control. You can call that foot control if you want. And of course we have to give it names left and right. So foot control left is going to be that. I'm going to use the foot IK left here. I'm going to keep offset on this one. Now of course you could change the pivot if you like. We're going to test out the pivots here in a bit. We're going to see if we like that. If we don't, we could of course adjust it to our liking. Absolutely, we have full control of that. And we can make it so that it can also be here. But for the time being, I'm going to keep it here just to see how it looks, how it feels. And if I go to pose mode, looks a bit wonky. So I'm feeling that it's nice, it's good, it's alright. It feels wonky though. It feels a little bit wonky. So I have the pose here for the foot, right here in the center. We could do some testing here and there. So I'm going to test it here and see how it looks here. How does it feel in here? What kind of feel we get? And notice if I go locally again and do this, it respects the global also. It's on point. So that one looks nice. Looks pretty neat and nice. I forgot one important bone in this collection in the rig, so I'm gonna go take the deformed ones. I'm gonna move the toes. I'm gonna move the toes to the rig controls here, because we want that. We want the toes. I want to play with the toes. Sounds really wrong out of context. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go again. Sorry guys, I know I've been changing my mind constantly, but I will skip this. I'll edit this. Okay, so I have it here and have it set up like this. I'm gonna go play with the controls. So let's mirror this to the other side. So I'm gonna select the foot control, eye kick left here, and then do symmetrize. And now if I go to pose mode, oops, let me disable the snapping. So that's gonna be good. We disable the snapping. Everything is in control, just like that. All right, let's go and create some controller shapes. Let's do that. So let's talk about creating controls. I'm gonna create some simple controls here and there, and I'll be starting with the cube because I like making box controllers, box-shaped controllers for certain parts of the body, and it's gonna be fun. So let's do that. So I'm gonna press Shift A, take cube, and then delete only faces. You're left with a box here. So I'm gonna go to edit mode and scale it down. And that's our first shape here now. We have this as our first shape. Another one I wanna do is a plane. So plane. And then again, only faces. So we have the edges here. I'm gonna move it to the side here. And then I'm gonna duplicate this and move it to the side, and then Shift D to duplicate, and then rotate it along the y-axis 90 degrees. We have this, and then Shift D to duplicate again, rotate it 90 degrees along the x-axis. So you have this little thing here. And if you want to get fancier, you could duplicate this, do 45, and then duplicate it, and then again put it 90 degrees, and you have this little fancy looking thing over here. In the same case, you could do over here, rotate it 90 degrees, or not 90 degrees, rotate it 45 degrees, and do the same thing here, negative 90. You have this little weird looking mechanical controller if you want. Or better yet, if you don't want that, you just create a circle mesh, move it to here, edit, duplicate it, rotate it 9 degrees, Shift D, rotate it 9 degrees along the z-axis, and you have this little fancy controller looking. So you could play with these shapes and adjust them to however you like. For my case, I'd like to keep stuff simple. I do want to do something here. I want to create a custom controller here, and I'm going to move this again to the side here. I'm going to scale this down here on the x-axis, sorry. And I'm going to do this, and then rotate it 90 degrees like that. So I have a little plus icon thing, and I like to keep that. This is just for later. I keep this as like extras, like a little plus. You can do whatever you want. You can use a custom shape. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you could do text, and then go to edit mode and call this extras. And if we move this over here and rotate it like that, we can go and fill mode, just have it like this. If I go and have an additional bone, I'm just going to move it up all the way and call it, for example, toggles control. Now, if we're going to go to the bone itself, viewport display, and select the object, you can see here it says extras. And we can play with the text here, by the way. We can move it here real quick. We could go here and make it so that it centers, and when it centers, it's literally in the center of the bone. So that's the bone called extras. I'm gonna go here, call it toggles. Toggles. And there's a reason for that, for the toggles control. You could do whatever you like. You could do whatever you like here. You could change the font, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you can go here and play with the fonts, but of course this will require you to install fonts and play with that. So that's multiple ways of going at it. Here's toggles, or if you don't want that, you can go to the bone and handpick something, like this icon here, the plus. Looks nice. I'm gonna just quickly go here. I'm just gonna add some points here and there in between the two, like this, like that, and then Shift Tab to enable snapping mode, X to move them around. So I press Control R to insert a cut or a loop cut, but because we don't have that, and if I do the same thing here, and then press A to select all, go to mesh, merge by distance. So I have these little vertices here, and I can just delete these edges, and it looks fancier here. There you see, it's like a plus icon. A little bit of modeling here and there can do a whole lot for your rigs, by the way. So you notice how it's big? You could go to the object itself and go to edit mode and scale it down to how you like. And that's our little toggles if you wanted to play with. So let's go add the shapes here, shall we? For the hip control, some people like to make it a box, some people like to make it a plane or a circle. The choice is yours, really, if you want. I personally like boxes because I'm used to seeing those old like video game behind the scenes where they show like rigs and armatures. And here's some picture here below. And here's a picture on the screen right now. You can see how it looked like in the early 2000s type of video game rigs. I love those things. So now I'm gonna go and add bone shapes. I'll go here, custom shape, click on the cube. If I can select it, cube, and you can see it's so tiny. We could go always to the shape here and play with it if we want. If we want to do that, like if we really want to play with that, we could do that. But I'm going to go here. I'm just going to enable, scale it up like this. You could also move it in edit mode to just a pivot to your liking. Let me just quickly disable wireframe mode from here. And by the way, the thing that I just clicked on, Q is my favorites menu, the quick favorites menu, along with other add-ons here. These are hard ops add-ons, but I'm not going to focus it on I'm gonna focus on the video here, but the quick favorites, you can add stuff to your favorites if you want to access things quickly. So for example, let's say I want to add an object here. I want to do cube. Okay, I can right click, add to favorites, and if I press Q, I could go here, cube, immediately, just like that, cube, if I wanted to. But I'm going to remove that from my favorites. So you can right click. You can right click to add stuff to your favorites, and if you're in the favorites menu, you can right click to remove things from your quick favorites. So it's handy. It's handy for stuff. It's a handy tool for stuff like that. Anyhow, I'm gonna go scale this up and probably gonna move it up a little bit. But I'm just gonna make a backup of this one just in case if I need it. And just go up. You can see here I could play with the axes. And change the global. Let's see, this is perfect. Like that, scale it up, and scale it like that. And that looks nice. If I go to pose mode real quick, I can select it. I can play with that. So nice, so sweet. That's our cube right there. And by the way, we can move these later on here. We can move them to the different collections. So if I press M and click New Collection, I'm going to call this Shapes. Now, of course, we don't have a collection here originally, so I'm going to take the armature itself and everything that has, take the armature and then move that to a collection, call it main. I'm gonna move the main to be up here, and if I press 1 or 2, we can switch between the layers or collections, and if I hold shift and press 1 or 2, it will have it with us. So let's go add controllers to the other bones. I'm going to click on the pole and then go and click on the bone, select that one over there. Can I select the object? It's kind of harder to select, so we have to go here and do circle. And here we have a little fancy looking pole vector. And here you can see we can play with the pole vector, and we can also change the scale on this. So I'm going to do that. That's the pole vector right there. What's awesome is that we can symmetrize these. So if I click on that, symmetrize, and then boom, it'll copy the shape. Fancy stuff. For the foot, I'm going to have the plane as the example. And for the root, I'm going to also have the plane, but it'll be another shape. I'm going to just move it around here, like that. I'll take the root now, go to the shape. Plane one is going to be probably this one. If I rotate this on x-axis and scale it, now we have something fancy here, but let's just move these again. We need to make some space for these so we can see. That's how the root control now looks. This is how these things look. Pretty nice. And we can go and play with the foot control. So for the foot control, I want it also to be plane. Again, I'm gonna type in plane, not this one, plane 03. This is where the stuff gets interesting. And for this one, I'm gonna just make it a bit bigger, scale it up like that, so that it does not get in the way. That's why it's important to have some nice stuff like that, like making sure that things look neat and tidy. I'm going to select the other one. If I press Z and move up, oops, press Z and move this up, and if I go numpad 1 and Z up till it matches like that, and then scale it on the x-axis like that, just making sure that this looks nice. Okay, I need to move this, scale it like that, move it on, scale it on y-axis, move it, and rinse and repeat. Okay, that looks not bad. That's for the foot, like that, the foot control. Let's go select the IK here, so we'll do that. I was stretching, and we're gonna go and select a different one. I'm gonna select a box here, just in case. Just select the box and go to the foot IK. Let's just disable the names real quick. It's kind of getting in the way. And go to the bone, cube, if you want. Or actually, let's not select the cube. I want to select that one. So I'm gonna do circle. Circle's alright. Duplicate this one, scale it down, and go to this one, and then take circle. Just go here, scale it up. In the case of wanting that one, and then for the toe, you can always choose shapes that we want. So like cube 02, this one if you want. If it's not nice, you can take cube. It's up to preference. Like I said, this is your rig. You could do whatever you like, whatever shape you want. It's for you. It's for you, it's designed for you. You want it that way, you can have it that way. So cube 01, that means this one. Move this here, and then change the size. Oops, I switched modes by accident. And here, we have it like this. And then for the toe is going to have a very simple controller, to be honest. I'm going to go here, mesh, circle 02 pretty much. I'm going to move it here. And then click on the toe, shape, circle 02. Go here and also play with the shape. So scale it down like this, move it up, or just scale it up like that. You can also cut the lower half of it, depending on which side it is. So like that, and you have this little nice foot control. Now let's do some editing here. Extrude this. And also select all of these, only faces. We can have this little fancy looking toe control here that you can play around with. And if we want, we can get fancier and move this up or down if we want, like this. But I prefer to keep it like that. Let's scale it. So, or not scale it, we can move this like that. Here, 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 whatever you want. Object mode. You could go to edit mode again, scale it on whichever axis you like, move it up or down, like this, and then scale it like that, and then you can see we have the fancy little control. Now, since we have the controllers set up, let's go to edit mode. Select the parts we want to symmetrize. So all of these, symmetrize. And the same kit. Oh, I think I didn't select the toe bone. Looks like it, symmetrize. There you go. We got the controllers. Controllers need some colors. Let's give these bad boys some colors. So let's go to the bones and select default colors. And we have themes. We have themes here. So I'd like to keep the root to be green, the hip to be either yellow, and then for this side, I'd like to make things look red and blue. So you're gonna have red, and you've noticed that we selected one of these, but not all of them got the colors applied to them. So if you want to do that, we're going to click on this, and boom, we have the colors that we want. We can also play with the custom color set. We can have here a red, a bright red like that. This is for active colors, and then for this one, you can make it like this. Play with the colors if you want. Make it like a gradient, sort of, if you want. Unfortunately for the colors, they don't tend to do much. So you're left with certain options that will not let you do anything. I was saying that sometimes these look darker. We cannot do nothing about it. The colors tend to look darker, and it's just playing with the colors, see which ones work best. So I'm gonna go here, click on the custom color set if we want. I'm gonna take probably a blue one for this. So you can have one of the sides being blue, green, you know, kind of like opposites. So let's select these and then click on this. It'll synchronize them. And don't worry about the colors being darker because it's like not selected, that's how it looks, versus when it's selected, versus when it's like multiple of them are being selected, they have different colors. You can of course distinguish these two. So if you want to make it different, you can have that. You can have the difference. You can play with the colors here. Make those like that. And of course, you can select this, synchronize them, if you like. But I like to keep it as consistent. So I'll select this, like that. This one, I'd like to give it a brighter color. So custom color. Let's see. You can have that, and then you can play with these. So I'd like to give them different color sets. paste it over here. And then for this one, I'd like to make it and then play with the okay, that's one side. Let's go to the other. I'm gonna give it a red color and then synchronize them. You can paste these over here if we want. And do the same thing. Paste. I'm gonna go play with these also. So I'm gonna have a custom color set. You could color this to your liking. You could do whatever you like. It's up to you. It's your thing. And you have the full control. Oh yeah. So what happens is, if we select this and this, it'll turn orange. But if we have this a little bit brighter, like yellow, it'll indicate that, hey, it's been selected. And then for this one, the inactive color, or active color, would be, so if I click on it, it's a little bit brighter. I'm gonna make it tinted towards orange. Like that. Or we can make it vice versa. So I'm gonna have it here and then this one be a slight. So it's selected as active. When it's like this, it'll be. Let's make it a little bit more. Yeah. And then go here. Select this one. Synchronize the colors. And then here the same thing. Copy, paste each. Now we'll look at the controls being fancy. They have colors. And then the root bone has its own color. This one has its own color. I'd like to parent this to the hip control. So I'm going to do that. So that when I move around, it depends on the preference. Maybe you're animating, you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. So here, I'm going to go to the toggles. Also, let's give toggles colors. I'll give it default colors, to be honest, because it's nothing that fancy for me. But the shapes could use something. You could keep it a simple thing. It's up to you if you want. We could give this the text. We could call it toggles if you want. You could do that if you want to get fancy. But for me, the plain works. You know, the plane is a decent shape I could work with. Let's try different ones we have here. There we go, the cross. You could choose whatever color you want. Let's see, something that is a little bit on the flashier side. Could be orange. I'm gonna go for it. Or red. Red works also. I guess I'll stick with the purple. I apologize, guys, for having a different taste in here in the colors, but it's all about the fancy stuff. So now we have set up stuff. I want to go with the yellow. There you go. It looks very nice. I think it's here, the yellow color. And that is our rig controllers done. That's how our rig controllers look like. Pretty beautiful. It's simple, it's not like advanced. It's pretty basic stuff. And then now you can just press 1 And we have our little fancy layer system here. So today, what we learned is that we worked with creating custom rig controllers, adding some additional bones just to have the rig to be more fancier. We also made different collections. So we have deformed skeleton and rig controls. So we have that. And I know that we used the toes from the deformed skeleton, but don't worry about it. It's the toes. We can animate it directly. There's nothing, crazy about it or something that will affect it. It will not do anything like that. And then we have the different layers or collections for the bones. So you can play with these if we want. If we don't, we can keep it as it is. Notice that I kept the deformed skeleton default because we're not going to touch it all that much. If we were to touch this, like add more stuff to it or actually play with it, then we would obviously give it some controls. But since we don't, it's a matter of just creating a basic rig here, like very basic, nothing too fancy. And we can also work with this. If the pole target or the pole bone for y'all bothers you so much in terms of distance, so if the distance is way too close, you could play with it. You can adjust it to your liking. The reason I added this, by the way, the other IK bone is for preference, because I want for the local and global to be the same. So I want to play with this. And if I want to really go here, I can also play with this if I wanted to. So it gives us more leverage to go with. In the advanced series, in the other volumes of rigging, I'm going to go more advanced into the whole foot controls because there's going to be a lot more interesting controls for that. Same case for the hips and for other parts of the body. But for this course, I aim to teach you the basics, like the very bare bone basics of doing stuff. So this is a simple version of a rig. It looks fancy, don't get me wrong, but it's simple. It doesn't go like even further. And this was the legs. We didn't even tackle the body. So we want to tackle the rest of the body in the other volumes. So this is volume 1. And in the next volumes, it's going to be playing with multiple things. Adding more controls, targeting specific parts of the body, and such. It'll be more advanced level. This is just beginner stuff. So we have the controllers here set up, and we also made collections. We gave the bones colors, added some bones here just in case, and we can go put here the names back again. And our rig now looks fancy. In the next lesson, I'm going to be teaching you about the toggles because we created a toggles control and we didn't do much about it. So we want to play with this. We want to work on this. If you guys found the video helpful, please leave a like, a comment down below, and make sure to share the video. Spread the love. And most importantly, if you have any questions or feedback that you want to ask, let me know down below in the comment section. And I'll catch you guys in the next lesson. Y'all take care and have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.